Well, good morning. I'm Michael Gargiulo in for Adam Cooperstein. This morning's rain, it helped cool things off a bit, but unfortunately did not put a dent in our drought. The dry conditions have gotten worse, and it's at the point now parts of the area are now in the severe drought category. So let's check out in Storm Team 4's Dave Price. Dave, so what exactly does that mean?
Well, these are the very latest numbers. We got this information in this morning, and now you can see areas including New York City and up in the Hudson Valley are under severe drought conditions. Now, that means in historic terms that water restrictions may be implemented, trees become brittle, susceptible to insects, fish populations stressed, oxygen supply an issue, and that means we could be seeing fish kills, and burn restrictions and poor air quality are byproducts of all this. And don't forget, for farming communities in and around this area, crops could be impacted by both yield and the size of what's grown. Now, Michael, you referenced the fact that we got some rain, still seeing some pushing out of the east end of Long Island right now, just not enough at all, just about 1/10 of an inch, and up in the Hudson Valley, absolutely nothing. So here's what we need to know going into the weekend. As far as our weather, we are going to see improving conditions, lower humidity, lower temperatures, a great weekend ahead, and real rain, well, that's possible next week. Will it be a drought buster? We'll talk about it all when we see in just a few minutes.
Dave, thank you very much. We have breaking news now. The Legal Aid Society is calling for an investigation after the I-Team broke the story about allegations of a whistleblower being fired. This after she complained about an alleged cover-up in homeless shelters by New York City officials. Let's go to News 4's Government Affairs reporter Melissa Russo. Melissa's here with an update. Melissa.
Yeah, Michael, the Legal Aid Society and the Coalition for the Homeless want city investigators to dig deeper after we reported allegations that a top official in the Adams administration may have tried to conceal legal violations from Mayor Adams, from the News 4 I-Team, and from the lawyers who represent vulnerable homeless families. As we first told you last night, the chief spokeswoman for the city's Department of Homeless Services, Julia Savelle, was abruptly fired last Friday after pushing back against what she said were efforts by her boss to keep secret the fact that his agency was violating the law. Her boss was City Social Services Commissioner Gary Jenkins, who you see there testifying at a city council hearing earlier this week. He says transparency is important to him, and he says he wasn't trying to cover anything up, but just simply that he was unaware that it was illegal to leave families to sleep overnight in the shelter system's intake office in the Bronx. That is a situation we discovered was happening back on July 20th. There was a major 2008 court settlement barring this practice, given the city's existing right to shelter. And it's a pretty widely known fact in government circles. So very surprising that the commissioner would have not known that these conditions you're seeing here, people staying all night in that building, are illegal. So the way the city is now explaining their paper trail, text messages, let me start that again. Julia Savelle complained numerous times to City Hall in the weeks before she was fired that Jenkins was trying to sweep violations under the rug. Text messages obtained by News 4 that you see here show Savelle saying things like, quote, "I just can't work for a commissioner who is okay with covering up something illegal." Now, this morning came a blistering joint statement from the Legal Aid Society and Coalition for the Homeless saying these allegations are stunning, and we fear that we can no longer rely on this administration for straight answers. We are concerned that the city's failure to comply with the right to shelter and related local laws may be much more widespread than the city initially reported. Accordingly, we call on the New York City Department of Investigation to immediately look into this matter for any additional wrongdoing. The statement goes on to say our clients, human beings in great need, are entitled to these protections and deserve nothing less. A spokesperson for Mayor Eric Adams said, last month, we confirmed that we did not meet the mandate for a handful of homeless families by the required time on one evening. Once we realized all of our legal obligations, we informed the proper parties. Meanwhile, Julia Savelle, that spokeswoman who was fired on Friday, declined to issue a statement. Michael?
All right, Melissa, much more to come on this. Great work by the I-Team there. We want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
There has been a sharp reaction to the preliminary congestion pricing plan revealed by the MTA, especially from the city's suburbs. Possibly up to $23 just to drive into the city during the peak hours. News 4's Romney Smith is in Mineola on Long Island, where officials have a lot to say. Romney, I'm sure you've heard a lot from a lot of people about this.
Yeah, a lot of people not happy about that price proposal, Michael. And I have to tell you, there's a meeting here in Mineola in about 30 minutes to talk about the impact that congestion pricing could have on commuters from the suburbs. Now, take a look at the proposal. This, again, is a preliminary proposal for the congestion pricing. It would impact anyone driving into Manhattan south of 60th Street. The peak toll could cost anywhere from $9 to a whopping $23. Off-peak times could cost between $7 to $17. Overnight drivers would pay anywhere from $5 up to $12. And get this, peak hours, Michael, would be a 14-hour block of the day, likely from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is all part of the plan following an environmental assessment to reduce traffic by up to 20% by increasing tolls for drivers. Congestion pricing will also raise upwards of $15 billion needed by the MTA to upgrade the more than 100-year-old system. It's also important to note that a federal review found that traffic might actually get worse in the other boroughs. Right now, there is mixed reaction to this proposal.
I do like that idea. I think that would be very helpful. I think they need to put some kind of plan in place to just make things a little bit smoother for everybody.
It's not going to reduce traffic. People have to go, they have to go.
It actually increases traffic in parts of the Bronx. The environmental review says the number of trucks on the Cross Bronx Expressway would go up.
It's not just people in the suburbs pushing back. Lawmakers in New Jersey are currently crafting plans to develop tax incentives for New York-based businesses to have a hub in New Jersey in order to help New Jersey commuters not pay the tolls, save on gas, and save on parking fees as well. Now, this could impact, of course, millions of drivers across the tri-state area who have to commute into Midtown and Lower Manhattan every single day. There will be 6 public hearings starting in about 2 weeks, and we expect to hear some pretty strong reactions there. We are live in Mineola on Long Island. Romney Smith, News 4 New York. Michael, back to you.
No doubt, Romney. Thank you so much. I want to go to the Bronx now, where a 14-year-old boy was shot and killed in a building lobby. This happened on East 194th Street in the Fordham section. News 4's Gabi Acevedo has the details.
Officers have discovered that the victim was shot and killed inside a lobby here on East 194th Street in the Bronx, and that victim is a teenager. Police say the call came in just after 1 a.m. with reports of a possible gunshot victim. When officers arrived on scene, they found that teenager shot in the chest. At this point, officers and detectives are leaning into the possibility that the victim was present in the lobby with a group of people around when somebody fired a shot. An inadvertent shot may have been fired, striking the victim in the chest. Again, it's all preliminary at this point. The victim rushed to the hospital where he could not be saved and died as a result of this gunshot wound. Many questions now arise after this latest episode of gun violence in the Bronx involving a teenager. A community activist approached us at the scene and reacted to the shooting.
It's not surprising because we've seen this happen over and over again. Since the beginning of this year, things have gotten much worse in the city, and we tried to get the attention of the mayor. We're trying to get the attention of the governor. We've been doing work with government agencies, but there needs to be more. It's only gotten worse over this past year.
At this point, there is no description of those people who were present, apparently, with the victim when he was shot. Detectives are present in the area, canvassing the neighborhood, talking to neighbors, looking for surveillance video, trying to shed some light on this latest episode of gun violence involving a teenager in the Bronx. Reporting for the Fordham Heights section, Gabi Acevedo, News 4, New York.
All right, it's 11:09 now, and right now police are trying to track down a group of thieves who used bear spray in a smash and grab heist at a Bronx jewelry store. Police say at least 10 men wearing masks barged into the jewelry store in Fordham Heights on Fordham Road just after 7 last night. They used that bear spray on store employees before they broke into several jewelry cases, took off in cars and motorcycles. It's the second heist in the area in the past week. It's not clear at this point if they are connected. Happening today, protests are planned over the future of carriage horses after one became sick on the street in the west side of Manhattan. The horse was on the pavement, 9th Avenue, yesterday, with the carriage driver trying to get him back up. When police arrived, they doused the horse named Ryder with water and ice, thinking the horse was suffering heat exhaustion. But after Ryder was taken back to the stable, a vet diagnosed him with EPM. It's a neurological disease caused by possum droppings. Still, the scene has advocates calling to have carriage horses banned in the city.
The city council, Speaker Adrienne Adams, the mayor, they are aiding and abetting this egregious animal abuse.
Neurological effects of the EPM cause the horse to stumble and fall as the carriage driver is trying to change lanes and turn here onto 45th Street on the way home.
Now a blood test will determine if Ryder does have EPM. If he does, he may need to retire. New York City getting more than $7 million in federal funding to expand the NYC Greenway, part of an infrastructure announcement the Biden administration made earlier this morning. And it's part of the administration's $2.2 billion Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equality that adds up to the RAISE program. The plan is to focus on undeveloped greenway sections, fill the gaps between the existing greenway paths so more dedicated bike lanes will be installed to help protect cyclists. Some other local projects include a $1.1 million roadway planning and design plan for the Shinnecock Indian Nation on Long Island, Elizabeth, New Jersey. We're going to get $5 million to look in the feasibility of building a ferry terminal for service to and from Manhattan. And then more than $2 million will go to Stamford, Connecticut. That's for a planned project to overhaul just over a mile of West Main Street corridor.
Well, Disney just passed a milestone in the number of global Disney Plus subscribers. But will those subscribers keep watching once they get a look at the new prices they'll have to pay? I'm Courtney Reagan. I'll have all the details in your CNBC Money Report coming up.
Plus, we've got the lineup for the upcoming Global Citizens Festival. One of the big headliners, Mariah Carey. Who else is on the list? That's coming up. Your chances of being audited by the IRS are likely not going up this year. This is according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. She told the Internal Revenue Service in a letter that while the agency is expecting $80 billion for more resources, it should not increase the audit rates for Americans and businesses making less than $400,000 a year. Opponents of the legislation to increase IRS funding say they will likely go after middle-class families and wealthy taxpayers alike. The House is expected to vote on that plan tomorrow. In today's CNBC Money Report, a sign of relief for those planning late summer road trips. Price of gas, don't want to jinx it, but it is dropping. Courtney Reagan joins us from CNBC Global headquarters with that and a look at the markets. I keep looking at the gas and hoping it's heading in the right direction.
Yeah, it seems to be, although, of course, we're talking typically about national averages, and they can definitely be more where we live here, Michael. But stocks in general, too, are rising across the board after yesterday's market rally. The Dow up triple digits, the S&P 500 in the green, the tech-heavy NASDAQ, that's trading higher as well. And investors are digesting the latest inflation numbers as the producer price index showed a surprise decline from the month prior. Gas prices, to your point, are falling. They're back below $4 a gallon for regular unleaded, according to AAA. That's the national average. And this is the first time since March that average has dipped below $4. So some relief for us. Drivers in the tri-state area are especially finding relief with current averages significantly lower from their mid-June highs. New York drivers are saving over 40 cents per gallon on average compared to last month's numbers, while New Jersey and Connecticut residents are saving even more. And Disney shares are soaring on record quarterly results as visitors are paying higher prices at theme parks. Disney will also increase streaming prices as the total number of Disney Plus global subscribers surpassed the 150 million mark this past quarter. Subscription prices, though, will rise to $10.99 a month in December and a lower price tier with ads debuting at just under $8 a month. And the U.S. Postal Service is temporarily hiking prices for this year's peak holiday season, which it said would help cover extra handling costs. The price increase would go into effect on October 2nd and remain in place until January 22nd of next year. Wow. Which reminds me, I need to stock up on those forever stamps.
I was just thinking the same thing. Courtney, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Take a look at this. This is video from the Washington, D.C. area. So look at the doorway there, the northeast section of D.C. District Dogs is the company, a doggy daycare. The floodwater nearly halfway up the door. Yesterday's sandbags barely held everything back. That area, David, got 4 inches of rain in just 2 hours.
Yeah, hope they take care of fish there, too. I mean, we saw a significant amount of rain in such a short short period of time, Michael, and that creates that flash flooding that we saw in and around the district yesterday. We saw some rain this morning. That's now pushing out of the way. It's good news. It's not quite enough to help us with the drought situation that we told you at the top of the program, but there could be more rain coming, and that will be after the weekend. Let's go through the details right now, shall we? Outside right now, we return to blue sky and a couple of puffy clouds out there just to make things beautiful. 77 degrees on the thermometer. Winds calm. Dew point is still up there, but tonight we're going to begin to see that real progress and that air dry out, leading to much more comfortable conditions as we head to tomorrow, as that number drops into the upper 50s and then into the mid 50s for Saturday and Sunday before we see things on the rise again next week and welcome some rain. So that trough rolls through, cold front moved through, and now we're on our way to that drier, cooler, gorgeous weather, courtesy of a high pressure system rolling in and winds coming out of the north and northwest. But we have a low which is going to make its way into our region as we begin the week next week. That's going to spin some Atlantic moisture back in our direction, and that could give us a significant amount of rain. Could because A, it's a while from now, and B, there is not complete agreement model-wise on what's going to happen. But this is one of the models saying that within the next 7 days, we could wind up in some locations with 3 to 4 inches of rain, a widespread 1 to 3 for the region, and that will help us should that come to pass. We'll continue to track it through the rest of the day, update you this afternoon and right through the weekend. Today's forecast, 87. Still warm, still a little bit muggy, but the sunshine continues to prevail as the afternoon continues. Above average temperatures, we should be at 84. 7:59, the sun sets before 8 o'clock now. Days getting shorter. Tonight's forecast, 70 degrees. A shower chance late. Don't forget, it's the full sturgeon moon. That doesn't mean appetizing. Doesn't mean appetizing along with lox, Michael, but it does mean that it's going to be a beautiful night to catch a nice, big, bright moon. 6:03 is when the sun rises tomorrow. Weekend forecast doesn't get better. 81 on Saturday, 66 at night, cool and refreshing. Sunday, another gorgeous day, comfortable Sunday night. Into next week, we begin to cloud up on Monday and then into Tuesday and Wednesday. This could be a significant rain for us with some instability still in the picture as we head into Thursday and Friday. That is a quick look at the weather picture, but the weekend is absolutely spectacular. And don't forget, as we take a look at that 10-day forecast, we have that full sturgeon moon tonight. Sturgeon moon. With a little bit of a schmear with some cloud cover.
Dave, you are in the land of the Gargiulos now, because I am thrilled to say Joelle Gargiulo is here.
Gargiulo sandwich.
Yes, you are.
So excited to be in the studio with Michael Gargiulo right now.
We did it.
Of course. All right. I think I have a tease to do. All right, coming up on New York Live, they are bringing all the best parts of the beach right here to New York. Lauren is diving into the food, views, and cocktails of the newest in Governor's Island, Gitano Island. And we are still not over that series finale. Emmy nominee Chrissy Metz joins us live to talk new music, wine, and why she is open to a This Is Us spinoff right here at 11:30. Michael, I'm so excited.
Love and hugs, Joelle. All right, thanks so much. There's a great new Harlem art exhibit in Harlem that kids of all ages are going to love. We're going to have more about that when we come back.
I'm a meteorologist, a mom, a morning person.
Today in New York's Maria LaRosa.
And a weather nerd, which means I know how important it is to get everyone out the door ready for whatever the day's weather brings.
Be prepped and ready with Maria LaRosa on Today in New York. A migrant influx, bust from the border and dumped in the city.
The News 4i team broke the story.
Sleeping in the streets and city offices. Now leaders are taking action.
It's a traumatic journey for these families.
As the story continues, stay with the News 4i team.
It's time to take flight in Harlem. Flyaway Isles is a collaboration between the Lego Group, artist Hebrew Brantley, and the Brotherhood Sister Soul organization. It's outside the nonprofit's offices on Hamilton Place, and it was designed with the goal of encouraging playful actions and sparking children's imaginations. Well, we now know the lineup for the 10th anniversary of the Global Citizen Festival in Central Park this year. Metallica, Mariah Carey, the Jonas Brothers, they'll be headlining the free concert on September 24th. It also includes Charlie Puth, Rosalia, and Maneskin. The tickets are free, but you do have to join Global Citizen to get them and take action on a series of issues. We'll be right back.
NBC4's Better Get Vaquero and Telemundo 47 Responde, working together for you.
Dave, what's happening?
I'm all that stands between one Gargiulo and another Gargiulo, so I will be brief. As we head through the rest of the day today, gorgeous sunshine later on. Humidity will get in check as we head through tonight. 77 degrees outside right now, and we'll reach a high of about 87 today. A gorgeous weekend and end of the work week ahead.
All right. Today at 4, the search for whoever destroyed the breeding grounds of a protected animal in New York. Plus, nixing New Jersey's gas tax. The state wants to test out a different way to charge you, how the program works, and the potential privacy concerns. New York Live is next with Joel Gargiulo. Stay safe.